It's raining in Minecraft, and I don't have a raft. It's raining in Minecraft. Maybe I should... Of course, I get so far and I realize it probably would make more sense to use the iron blocks. It's raining. It's raining. Trying to see if I... Yep. It's a boat made of concrete blocks. I think this is concrete. I don't have to, but I think realistically I should put supports. I hope that didn't just cut in with an ad. I just did insert ads. Oh, wait. I just have to adjust something for the capture device. There we go. Oh! 1 second. Making sure my headset mic was turned off. Bear with me, 310A is being weird. Maybe I should have actually put a puppet live streams Minecraft. I never think to do that. If you are new and just tuning in, We started building a house on water, but we began at the bottom. Okay, that was dumb on my part. We began here, where we built... Let me go down the ladder. Oh. This nice underwater viewing area room. There's beds over there. There's some giant couches where you can just sit and watch the ocean. Now I'm building the top half of the house. You can hear the dolphins. Can you hear the dolphins cry? That's a real song, I wouldn't be surprised. Like, if it is. And if anyone who has not been on this channel before is curious as to what I am a puppet, and the virtual avatar I'm using is based on the puppet. I know that you have your pick of virtual YouTubers, including, God, I think there's one for every animal. Cats, sharks, mice, snakes. We appreciate that you're taking the time out of your day to watch a puppet. I actually got the chance to watch a couple movies this week. One of them was called Summer Rental. It was from 1986. and it starred a guy named John Candy, legendary comedy actor, comedian, and it kind of caught me off guard because I kind of forgot that some movies kind of used to be a little simpler. Because the whole plot is he's a air traffic controller who is like so stressed up and wound up from his job that his bosses basically force him to go to Florida for a vacation. And the whole thing is that it's the whole idea is that he starts off, he's not having a good time. First day he gets sunburn, he goes to the wrong place that's not the actual rental house. He finds out the rental house is public beach access, so he has to constantly deal with people. At one point, a bunch of people just go in his house because the door is open and just throw a party. And he basically befriends this pirate guy who teaches him how to sail a boat, which helps him kind of calm down. And then it turns out that this rich sailor dude who's like, I hate all these tourists who come down here and rent all the properties to make things annoying. Rah, rah, rah. And I'm like, bruh, you're in a part of Florida near Tampa. So, Florida town's right on the beach? I can't speak for every town in Florida, but every beachside town in Florida, but I'm pretty sure most of the town's economy banks on that summer tourism. Well, summer tourism and people who come down here in the winter because it's not as cold. And eventually what happens is the rich guy somehow buys gets the lease from the landlord who they rented it from, and he's like, ha 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 ha, because you have been annoying and you poked a hole in my boat, I'm gonna reject your check and make you guys leave before your lease is actually up. My logic is, okay, it's like, okay, I'm gonna sue you then. Instead, no, it's like, I'm gonna give you a, you know what? I'm gonna join the big boat race and I'm gonna beat you. I think I remember, I was just thinking, this is a movie from the 80s. So, that means this is going to have to be resolved with some kind of contest or competition for something. In this case, it's a sailing competition. And what I remember is he learns to be a better sailor, and the issues from his job, I don't want to spoil too much, I feel like I have already, help him win the race. And what happens is, right after it says he wins the race, then the credits roll. And that was just so weird to me, because I guess I'm just used to more how films from, like, this era, or maybe even films from, like, the 2000s even. Might be some from the 90s, don't quote me. A lot of times I feel like they would have the victory, but then they would have an additional scene or two afterwards to kind of show what's going on, how's everybody going to be, everything's going to be okay, but it's like, this guy's story is over. This guy's story is over. We're just going to roll credits. Anything else would just kind of be supplemental fluff to pad out the runtime. Arc's done. There's no need to go back here. That's... Like I said, I've probably seen movies before that did that, but it was just so weird to have it be abrupt. It's like it was here and then it was done. I think the same day, I also got to watch the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers from the 1960s, or 1950s. And I think it's interesting how it basically plays out like a Twilight Zone episode. And one thing I thought while watching is like, if they had focused on a bunch of kids during this instead, then that would literally be like the plot to a Goosebumps book. And if you're not familiar with that, then to sum it up, two people who have been away from this small town come back, and they find out that since about 2 weeks ago, things have been getting weird in the small town. People are acting off. They're acting different. And it's basically the... And what's going on is the people are different, but they're not differences you notice. They're subtle differences. And we find out what's going on is that basically giant seed pods from space have ended up in this town. And they have been slowly replacing the populace and growing more seed pods so they can mass produce and replace the entire planet. I think the other reason... I'd heard of the movie before. I think I saw it before when I was younger, but I also remember that it was in Gremlins. I don't know why we're talking about movies by playing Minecraft, but nobody said anything, so I'm just going to roll with it. Where at the end, Billy and Gizmo are... Well, not the end, like midway through, right before things get really crazy. Billy and Gizmo are watching Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and it ends with the line at the end where he's like, "They're coming after us! Our wives, our children, everyone! They're here!" Oh, I'm trying not to yell. "They're here already! You're next!" And it's just, like I said, it's just creepy. And even the ending's a little bleak. And I think the last thing... I might also try to hunt down Pain and Gain and watch that again. I remember really liking that one. If anyone's ever seen that, that's the one with, it's based off a real true story that happened in Florida. And once you hear the rest, you're going to be like, yeah, that sounds like Florida. Where Mark Wahlberg, Anthony Mackie, and The Rock are bodybuilders who decide they're going to start robbing and extorting people. Well, the whole catch is that they are completely incompetent at trying to actually rob people. It's, if I had to describe it, it kind of plays off like a slightly more violent Always Sunny episode. I don't know how I just got on... I thought I had a thesis statement for a moment about the whole idea that it feels like movies have kind of changed. How storytelling can change in film as time goes on. Oh yeah, I guess it was just weird to see that there was a time, going back to Summer Rental, where movies just ended. They didn't feel they had to tell you anymore. Story's done. We're over.
Oleander Rainbow said, "Put the money in the bag. Sir, you're facing the wrong way."
Welcome, Oleander, and kind of that, but imagine if SpongeBob also had his anchor arms on at the same time. Or if it was the buff SpongeBob from that same episode, where he's just like, it's just his square head on a bodybuilder's body. Oh, and Oleander, if you just tuned in, do you have an opinion about how it feels like, depending on the time you go to, movies are kind of structured differently? Movie... I also think with some older movies that ended with a "the end?" question mark, I don't think those were meant to be taken as actual confirmation this was going to get a sequel. I think it's the idea that depending on the context, it's like this may never be over. Like, one of my favorite movies of all time, the original. Well, I like the original and the remake of a movie called The Blob. And for some of the younger people out there, the plot of the movie is basically imagine something kind of like an amoeba. It's big, it's acidic. Well, it eats.
Oleander Rainbow said, "Yet, I feel like each decade has its own themes. The 70s did not care. The 80s were kick his ass. And the 90s was just cool."
I wouldn't say cool totally. I would say the early 90s were cool. And then the late 90s, everything started to get really, like, grungy. And there was a bigger emphasis on, like, greens for some reason. That's one benefit, is I like the fact that I was around the 90s long enough, and I was cognizant in the 90s long enough to actually, like, see the changes, see the way things were changed. And just see this kind of tonal shift for how we looked at things. Oh, and anyway, The Blob was a movie from the, I think, 50s or 60s, and basically it was this big pink, red. It starts out clear. That's a thing to remember. It grasps onto this guy's hand. They take the guy to the hospital. The guy is just gone because it literally devoured him, and it was clear. And because it was devouring people, it went from clear to pink to progressively more and more red, because it basically breaks people down and eats them. Like I said, that's why I don't even think I came up with comparing it to an amoeba. I've heard someone else compare it to that. That it's a living acid that breaks things. It's like a living acidic monster that breaks things down and adds it to its mass. And yeah, the effects may be hokey in the fact you don't see any people actually get eaten by it on screen in the original, but it's still a pretty scary concept. Which I think is one of the reasons why we got a sequel in the 70s, and we also got a remake in the 80s. And I will say the remake is awesome. It basically just takes everything about the original and improves on it, which does include actually showing the blob eating people. But there's also the thing that if you look closely in this, I don't know where you can watch this, so if you can find it, I definitely recommend it. Is that I think you can probably go pick it up at FYE. I think it got a Blu-ray release, or it's on, or you can probably check Amazon, YouTube, maybe even YouTube Movies. I can't check right now. Oh, maybe I should turn the volume down. Can everyone hear me? And yeah, the movie even ended with a sort of jump to the future where you could theoretically still do a sequel to it even now, because we don't know how far in the future it is, and it's in like a tent church. The last scene is in a tent church, and I still remember this. There's a pastor who survived the encounter with the blob, and he's giving
Oleander Rainbow said, "It's on YouTube Premium."
Oh. Well, he's giving a sermon about the end of the world. And he's like, he's like the fire and, fire, day of reckoning. And somebody comes up to the end, it's like, when, Father, when will the day of reckoning come? And he just holds up the blob still moving, a piece of the blob still moving in the jar. He got a piece of the blob somehow. And he just says, the most creepy way, "The Lord will give me a sign." Okay, it's one thing when a movie that's not very good has a sequel hook in it. It's another when a good movie has a sequel hook, but then we never get the sequel. But I actually kind of prefer movies where they ended in a way it's not supposed to get a sequel, and then they have to find a way to continue it because the movie did so well. They have to make more of them. It's like Friday the 13th Part 1. Pamela's dead. What do we do now? Let's just say Jason has been alive the whole time, and he's just been living in the woods, and now he's gonna go after the people who unalived his mom. It's like, okay, we got that. Okay, we're done with these movies. Part 4, we're gonna kill him. Call it the final chapter. It's like, okay, he's dead. Wait, they want another one. What we do? Oh, how about crazy guy dresses up like Jason and goes after people to continue the legend of Jason. It's like, okay, that's cool. Hey, maybe it should be like a grown-up version of the kid who unalived him in the movie before. Like, nah, we'll hint at that, but we won't do anything with it. So then so it's like, oh wait, the people still want more of these. What do we do now? Like, let's just bring him back. Okay. So then you have Jason Lives, where Jason comes back as a zombie basically, and he's a tank. He's unstoppable. You know, it's just a constant cycle of we're done. We have to make another one. Make something up. We're done. It's just this endless cycle of... I don't think I'd compare it to Sisyphus, though. Sisyphus? The rock guy. The guy in Hades who has to push the rock up a hill for all eternity. I wouldn't be surprised if New Line kind of had the same issue with the Elm Street films, where it did feel like they were trying to find ways to kind of permanently unalive off Freddy, but it wouldn't work. Or they'd have to find a reason he came back somehow, like do a sequel to the first one, which takes place years later, Freddy's Revenge, which I actually like that one, and I know there's a lot more subtext to that film now, but I don't feel like going into it. I just want to play Minecraft and talk about movies. But it is a really good film, especially with that new subtext added to it. Like, it adds a little twinge of creepiness to it and real horror. Where... Okay, to break down the plot of the second one, Freddy's Revenge, is years have gone by, a new family has moved into the house from the first movie, and they're dealing with weird stuff happening in the house, including a guy we focus on, a kid named Jesse, who keeps having nightmares about Freddy. And finally, we find out Freddy's plan is that somehow by letting Freddy possess his body will somehow let him go into the real world with all of his powers. It doesn't make a lot of sense. But the idea is that he's basically slowly possessing him, and it's like he's turning into Freddy, and there's nothing he can do about it. Oh, well, I screwed that up. Oh, a render completed. Good. I recorded a time lapse for designing some new shirts for the merch store. That's going to be a members only video. That's going to be a members exclusive video for I did a community poll a few months back to ask if people wanted t-shirts for the Whacky Puppets characters that were like movie parodies. And people voted yes. Like, I gave the choice movie or anime, and I think a lot of people voted movie. So we just got done doing Currently, I'm just kind of going through movies I really like, or some of my favorite movies. I'll do a community post to show that. And so the sequel just kind of ends. The second one ends. The third one does still take place in kind of the time skip following the first movie, but it's about how a bunch of teenagers are being sent to this like psychiatric facility, and Freddy is basically using their fear of him to pick them off one by one, and it's making him stronger. So the way they try to defeat him this time is they have to find where his body was buried and consecrate the grave so his spirit can finally be put to rest. They do that. That's supposed to be the final thing. That's also where we find out about Freddy's origin story, which I can't even quote or tell you because it definitely is not advertiser friendly. And then, so yeah, he's dead. He somehow comes back in 4, but the idea being that even though he's been laid to rest, he has so much souls from people he's killed that he just can't, unalived, I mean, that he can't stop. And so then he has all the souls ripped out, which is supposed to make him weaker. Then he comes back again. This time he's trying to basically take over the body of a developing baby so he can be reborn into this world and can cause chaos again. And then this time it's like the spirit of his mother, the nun from before. Oh, his mother is a nun. Re-imprisons him and basically tries to hold him back to keep him from ever escaping. And then we go to Freddy's Dead, where I don't know how he came back this time, he just did. Where even though bringing him into the real world did not kill him in the first movie, the climax of that film is, it's all in anaglyph 3D, so it looks horrible. Because it's got the red and blue filters on everything. I think my parents actually had a 3D TV. Should have tried watching it on that, see if maybe it looked better. Remember 3D TVs? And so apparently all they did was they just hit him with a pipe bomb, and that apparently that was enough to finally do him in. Oh, we're freezing. Oh, there we go. The Sherpa is back. Oh. Hi. Get out of my house. I think that's enough about horror movies. For now. I think the power of suggestion is one of the most terrifying things in the world. Where, like, somebody can fall asleep during a Vine Sauce stream and hear Joel just describe what he thinks a game called Body Harvest would be about. They have a dream that that game exists, and then they end up thinking that the game exists, and people go on a massive chase to try to find a game that never existed. And That's happened to everybody, though. I'm sure there are games I've dreamed that I thought really existed. But it's like, wait a minute, no, that doesn't make sense. Like, imagine dreaming, I think that's why I forget what ultimately happened with the whole Saki Sanobashi thing. The alleged lost deep web gore anime. Where I think it's somebody said they made it up, but then another guy was like, hey, this doesn't really look like the same writing as the guy he's claiming to be who said he made it up. And then there's the idea of, no, wait, it was on this old website. No, it's this one. No, it's this one. I would not be surprised if at some point that was just a nightmare somebody had to... Like, that was a weird anime nightmare somebody had. I wonder how insane this must look to anybody who just stumbles onto this stream. And I'm still talking even though I can see there's nobody watching. It's like I'm answering questions no one is asking. I'm like, is this guy okay? I'm okay. It's just I'm thinking up prompts for myself. So that way if anybody kind of wanders on stream, they can partake in a conversation, which I welcome people to chat. Like, if you're watching this stream archive, too, you know, I welcome people to chat. I welcome comments, because, you know, comments are how I know if I'm doing something right or wrong. I actually remember I freaked out my friend Isaac from Isaac and Friends because he was playing, like, a Forza game. And on the radio, they started playing Shooting Star. It was like this it's a real song, but it also felt like kind of a knockoff of Firework by Katy Perry from like how the lyrics were, the way the song was structured. It's like, shooting star, you are. Like, it kind of has that same... It's not exactly the same as Baby, You're a Firework. But, like, that's the first thing I think of, like, this is trying to be Fireworks so badly. And I remember it because it was, like, one of those fake EAS things, which half the time, though some of those are practically movies, called Rising Heat, which was about the planet getting hotter. And if you watch the video... That is one of the last songs that actually plays on the, like, fake radio broadcast before we go into the actual nightmare of the planet melting. And it even had a sequel that was a pseudo-sequel that was, like, called Absolute Zero, which was the opposite. Both of basically, the planet was getting hotter because something happened to the orbit and Earth was moving closer to the sun. Which was also the plot of a Twilight Zone episode. And so the opposite, Absolute Zero, is about the sun, Earth moving farther away from the sun and getting colder. Which I think is really funny because... I'm like, I expect me to say, oh, that's a plot to another Twilight Zone episode. Like, no, not at all. That's the plot. That is the twist ending for that same episode of the Twilight Zone, where this world where the Earth is getting closer and closer to the sun and everything's getting hotter is a fever dream one of the main people is having as the Earth is actually moving away from the sun and getting colder and colder. That's why I like the Twilight Zone. I always love the twists in those. I can't remember what specific holiday, but I know the Sci-Fi Channel used to rerun Twilight Zone all day, every day. All day for like a 3-day marathon. And I swear for half of them, the last one were always... One I always thought was kind of one of the cruelest, called All the Time in the World, which is about this guy who survives. Sorry, I had to check my messages. Oh, I gotta do that on the other side, too. Oh, wait, no I don't. And I forgot to put my Dubby sponsor up in the corner. Well, I think if there's a lesson I learned from this stream, don't talk about movies. Either that, or maybe this was just a bad time to try live streaming. We're gonna finish this base top for the boat, and then I think we're gonna call it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, I deleted the wrong one. There we go. Keep thinking it's lopsided. Alright, we're just getting this finished up here. Weirdly enough, it's kind of making me think of that old creepypasta, The Seafarer, which was about a guy who only stayed on the boat, never went on land. I think it's from Vicious 319. You can definitely look it up. Oh, that looks creepy over there. There's an idea. It's kind of hard to pick which one works better. I think what I may do for the rest of the top is switch over to different color terracotta. Wait, not terracotta. Concrete. And I may actually put like a layer over coating the exterior of this. I think what I may try to do is we'll do a separate video and actually do a time lapse of building the rest of this boathouse. We're gonna finish this, and then we're gonna get started on that time-lapse video. Alright. See you after the time lapse.